What's the most memorable Super Bowl winning team?
The Juggernauts! Hey!
We tend to remember the squads who won the big game with late heroics, clutch plays, and a bit of luck. The games that were decided by a last-second field goal, a miraculous goal line stop, or a touchdown in overtime. We tend not to pay tribute to the teams that didn't pull off any late-game magic, not because they didn't have it in them, but because they never needed it. Which teams butchered the competition like Jason Witten did to the English language? Those are coming up right after this.
Charles, you got in my head. I'm the juggernaut, bitch.
So we're judging these teams based on several factors, such as point differential, how early their games were decided, and more than anything, how long they were able to stay in cruise control against the best competition the league had to offer. Number 5, 83 Raiders. The 1983 Raiders are rarely mentioned among the greatest teams of all time, but they won 3 laughers in a row on the way to winning their 3rd Super Bowl. Then the LA Raiders, they were led by Jim Plunkett, largely regarded as the worst quarterback to win multiple Super Bowls, and second-year stud running back Marcus Allen. After beating the Steelers and Seahawks by a combined score of 68-24 in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the Raiders were pitted against Joe Theismann's Washington Redskins, the defending Super Bowl champs who were in fact favored by 2 points heading into the game. Needless to say, they did not cover the spread. Los Angeles raced to a 14-point lead in the second half and finished the game without the Skins getting within a score of them, finally taking home the Lombardi after a 38-9 win. All in all, the Raiders picked off Joe Theismann, the league MVP, twice and sacked him 6 times. The previous year's Super Bowl MVP John Riggins only averaged 2.3 yards per carry. Marcus Allen said thank you very much and claimed the MVP for himself, rushing for 191 yards and 2 touchdowns, including one where he reversed field and scored from 74 yards out, making the defending champs look like a high school team. This was dominance, and it was against a Washington juggernaut that most expected to go back-to-back. Number 4, the 91 Redskins. The best team of the 90s, maybe one that we hardly ever think about. It's not the 98 Broncos, who went down 10 in the AFC Championship, or the 92 Cowboys, who had to sweat one out with the 49ers to make the big game. The 91 Redskins made a mockery of their 3 playoff games on their way to winning their 3rd Super Bowl under NASCAR owner Joe Gibbs. Led by Mark Rippon, who had an almost aberrational season a la 2012 Joe Flacco, the Skins defeated the Falcons by 17, the Lions by 31, and the Bills by 13. Their Super Bowl win against the Bills was not as close as the final score would indicate. Despite the 37-24 finish, the football team was up 37-10 in the 3rd quarter, and it took 2 touchdowns in the last 7 minutes of the game to make it appear competitive. On the road to dominance, the 17-2 Skins never trailed any of their 3 games and posted a point differential of plus 61. Perhaps most impressive of all, their defense held Barry Sanders to just 44 yards in the NFC Championship game, and they beat the Lions 41-10. Yes, it was the Lions. The only knock on the 91 R-words, they didn't face the best competition in the tournament. They avoided playing a Dallas team that was a year away from birthing a dynasty, got a 10-6 Falcons team in the divisional round, and the aforementioned Lions, who are the Lions. The Bills had playoff experience, but might as well have been cursed in the early 90s. Guess what season it is? Yes, it's football season, but it's also winning season at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contests, and Squares. At MyBookie, winning season means hitting your props and watching your team destroy their rivals. Rejoice, for winning season is here. Invest in your gut. Use promo code POINTS100 and double your first deposit. New players get $1,000 in free play. You heard that right. Add more excitement to the game you love. From live action to futures, every play is possible at MyBookie. Again, use promo code POINTS100 and double up on your first deposit. Make your picks, win big, and collect your earnings. Winning season starts today. Number 3, the 85 Bears. Not only did the 85 Bears not break a sweat in the playoffs, they barely broke a sweat in the regular season, finishing 15-1 with all those 15 wins decided by at least 6 points. The only team that gave them trouble were Dan Marino's Dolphins, a matchup nightmare for the Bears' 4-6 defense, who put up 38 on Chicago and made them sweat bullets in the humidity of the Orange Bowl. Perhaps Super Bowl 20 would have been a contest had the Dolphins held up their end of the bargain and met the Bears in New Orleans, but they couldn't get past the Patriots, who ended up losing by a score of 46-10 in the big game. That game was a coronation for the Bears and their all-time defense. Actually, the whole playoffs were a coronation for them.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
They beat the Giants 21-0, the Rams 24-0, and allowed their first points of the playoffs on an early field goal in the Super Bowl that put the Pats up 3-0. Chicago would score the next 44 points in the game. All told, they beat those 3 teams by a combined score of 81-10. Damn, son. Number 2, the 2016 Falcons. Before we get to the number 1, let's remember a team that was on the verge of reaching dominance before they befell tragedy. Up until the third quarter of Super Bowl 51, the 2016 Atlanta Falcons were cakewalking to the Lombardi. They had beaten the Seahawks by 16 after going on a 36-6 run in the middle of the game, took care of the Packers by a 23-point margin, and famously oversaw a 25-point lead over the Patriots. If they had held on to that lead, they may have found an unironic spot on this list. Instead, they don't technically qualify because, well, they didn't win. Maybe the fact they hadn't played a close game in over a month was the reason they couldn't weather the storm against the Patriots. Or bad decision making. But perhaps that makes the other teams that didn't even let it get close so impressive. Before we get to our number 1, let's have some honorable mentions. The 1996 Packers had to call in the troops to defeat the Pats after a close third quarter in Super Bowl 31, but didn't have to blink in the playoffs until then. The 73 Dolphins didn't go undefeated, but they breezed through the playoffs with more ease than the 17-0 squad from the year before. The 77 Cowboys let the Craig Morton-led Broncos get within 10 points of them in the second half of the Super Bowl, but shut the door quickly to win their second big game of the 70s. The 98 Broncos made quick work of Dan Marino's Dolphins and the 16-2 Falcons in the Super Bowl, but oddly struggled to fight off the Jets in the AFC title game, spotting them 10 points before reeling off 23 unanswered. And the 86 Giants only allowed 3 points in their first 2 playoff games, even beating the 49ers by 46 in the divisional round, but trailed the Broncos at halftime in the Super Bowl. And now for number 1, the 1989 San Francisco 49ers. Even if their first 2 games had been nail-biters, the 55-10 score in the Super Bowl might have gotten the 89 Niners on this list by itself. But that was not the case, and their nails were perfectly intact all the way throughout January of 1990. Joe Cool and the Niners cruised through the regular and postseason. In the playoffs, they defeated their opponents by a combined score of 126-26. Plus 100 point differential for all the math whizzes out there. Like the Bears, the only time they trailed was by a score of 3-0, which was the Vikings' biggest highlight of the game before surrendering a barrage of 27 straight points to the well-oiled machine that was the Niners offense. Of course, the cherry on top was the biggest margin of victory in Super Bowl history, a 45-point victory against John Elway and the Broncos. All told, regular season and Super Bowl MVP Joe Montana threw 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions over 3 games, while Jerry Rice put up 317 yards and caught 5 of those touchdown passes. The 49ers were as close to perfect as it gets in the '89 postseason, and they're the most dominant juggernaut of all time.
Dude, I know who I am. He must not know who I am. I'm the juggernaut, bitch. I'm gonna hit you with your own pimp. I'm bad. I'm the baddest on the world.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, or subscribe for more interesting videos on sports on 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.